Hi, this is Dr. Stephen from Outclick Magazine. Today we're excited to bring to you another Evans, namely Doug Evans, who is the Executive Director for the Chamber Music Society of Palm Beach. Doug, welcome to the program.
Thanks ever so much. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. We share a name. We're not related, but it's great to have another Evans on the program.
There could be some relationship somewhere. We just have not taken time to dig back on it, but who knows, right?
There could be. There could be. Well, Doug, tell us about the Chamber Music Society of Palm Beach. What makes it such a unique experience for people who come to your performances?
Well, we've been around for 8 years now. We're going into our 9th season, and we are one of the only groups in South Florida who actually brings musicians from Lincoln Center and Carnegie Hall and around the world to South Florida for a series. None of our musicians are local; they're all world-class artists. They've studied with people like Itzhak Perlman, so they're the best of the best. And we decided to do this because so many people who live here in South Florida, Palm Beach County, Broward County, Miami-Dade County, are people, as you and I both know, who come here for the winter, or now there's this huge migration of people coming here full-time and permanently, who really are used to the best of the best. So we decided to start this 8 or 9 years ago and model it after the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center. And a lot of our musicians are members of that group also. So that's why it's different. And beyond that, these musicians are young, youthful, as you see by the photographs there. They tend to be younger, their 20s and 30s. There's a couple who are in their 40s, actually, but they literally are the best of the best. And it's a series, it's a subscription series, and it's overwhelmingly fun and interesting. Unlike a symphony concert you might go to, where you come into the theater, the auditorium, the performance venue, you're dressed up in a suit and tie, you come in, you sit down, you sit there, and there's an intermission. You applaud, you remain very quiet and very proper. This is really casual. Is it a suit and tie? Not necessarily. Is it a jacket or sport coat? Possibly, absolutely. But it's a cocktail hour at 6 o'clock. It's a concert at 7 o'clock that only lasts for like an hour and 15 minutes. And these young people actually, heaven forbid, talk between the pieces that they perform, and they really bring everything to life. So it's a much different experience, and it's very overwhelmingly fulfilling. It's the cool factor when it comes to classical music.
So we work with the symphony and those. Tell us a little bit about how the instrumentation for chamber music and this type is different than a symphony. How is it different?
Well, chamber music was meant to be just essentially that: music in a chamber, music in your home, music in a salon. So the largest ensemble we've ever had is a total of 8 pieces, 2 quartets. And for us, that was a lot of people on one stage, but typically it's a trio or it's a quartet or rarely a quintet. It's a Vienna, a violin, 2 violas, a cello, 2 violins, a viola, and a piano. It's typically string instruments, and these pieces are like the best of the repertoire of all the composers. And the composers are not just the old line like Mozart or Beethoven, but like Philip Glass and the new ones also. And it's how it's different. It's not, you won't sit there and sit through 4 movements of a very long symphony. You may sit through 4 movements of a chamber piece, but they tend to be briefer, and they all have the same kind of format, but it's not a large ensemble. You also hear a lot of solo work, which you would not necessarily hear with a symphony orchestra, unless, of course, the orchestra is playing in the background with a soloist standing up front. So that's the primary and the main difference. This was made to be played in an intimate space, and that's what we do.
I think you stole my word. It's intimate. It's a more private space. You get to know the players. You're sitting there and you have this engagement with the players because it's a smaller group. And it's like you said, it's almost like you're sitting there in their home or they're sitting in your home and you're experiencing the music in a whole nother way and a whole nother venue. I came up to your concerts before and they're so much fun. And like you said, the engagement and the kind of play that you get to go know with the players is a lot of fun, and to get to know them. And they talk about the music and they talk about the composers in a way that's kind of educational at the time.
Well, it really is, and it's spot on when you say that it's very intimate. A lot of the musicians who come here come back on an annual or every other year basis, and so by coming back, so often, and it's still a mixture. It's 30 to 40 musicians in a mix per year. They get to know the community. They get to know the people who live here. When they come here to stay here, they stay in members or subscribers' homes. They never want to stay in hotels. I mean, think about it. If you're on the road, 300 days a year as a musician, you've got a chance to somebody's home here in South Florida in the beautiful weather. Why wouldn't you want to do that? So with us, you really get to know the people, the person behind the music, and it really is an intimate experience. I mean, the most people who ever attend a concert is 150 people. Of course, when you go to the Broward Center, it's 2,000 people, or the Kravis Center, and some of these larger halls. But with us, 150 max. Usually it's around 100 people.
We came and we had cocktails and we enjoyed the socialization part and getting to know people. It was so much fun dressing up in the, like you said, the social part. Tell us about your upcoming season. Doug, Arthur helps us in the background as he always does. Tell us about your upcoming season. Arthur's going to pull it up on the website, some of the dates.
It's absolutely spectacular and phenomenal. It opens in November, which is the season grand opener. It's sponsored by one of our donors named Peter Gotzigan. And you can see by the list of musicians, it goes through large ensembles to an ensemble of 2 people. James Ennis, which is on one of his concerts, is arguably the best violinist in the world right now. Nice young guy. Absolutely a lot of fun. But then you see we've got a horn trio. It's a real mixture of concerts. Some of the pieces are more familiar than others. So when you click to the website, which I know we won't do now, it actually lists the pieces they're performing. Now, because we do things that are really flexible, some of the pieces may change between now and then because some of the musicians may change between now and then. We've got flexibility that orchestras and other ensembles do not have. And we like that because if a new piece comes up or a musician has to cancel because something has happened to them, we can actually change the pieces and make that happen. So it's quite the spectacular season. We operate November to April. We usually finish around April 1st, April Fool's Day, which is what we are planning on doing this year. Or if we have to postpone a concert and move it to later in the season for some reason, a hurricane, whatever else might happen, we have the ability to do that. But it's going to be a spectacular 9th season for us this year.
Arthur, we'll scroll back down. Arthur, I mean, that one particular one, the instrumentation is a cello, clarinet, piano, French horn, and viola. So it's an interesting, I love the mix of instrumentations. It's a different sound every time you come. The other one is piano and violin. Then it's piano, soprano. So you have a soprano and vocalist. Then you have cello, piano, and violin. So it's a different mix of instrumentation every time that lends to a different sound. And that's what I appreciate about this. It's a little different every time because of the different instrumentation. It might be wind, it might be vocal, string, piano, are different. That's what I think is the cool factor, Doug.
It's never the same, and no matter if you think you've heard the piece before, because if you've never heard the piece with world-class musicians, it's going to sound absolutely different, and we like that about it. And yes, we try to mix it up with vocalists, with woodwinds, or with brass. For the most part, we keep it with strings, but you can see there's a wonderful mix coming up this next season.
Yeah, amazing. So tell us about the subscriptions that are available and how people can sign up for your subscriptions.
We do something a little bit differently. It's a subscription for 7 concerts, and we typically don't sell single tickets. The subscription is $1,500 for 7 concerts. Now, that might sound a little steep, but you have to understand that that's cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. And when we say cocktails and hors d'oeuvres, Stephen, you've been to the concerts. It's an amazing evening of delectable food, incredible drinks, and socializing, because the people who come together are like a community with us. Once you go to one concert, you're very warmly embraced by everybody there, and you get to know them. So it's $1,500 for 7 concerts, but of that, $600 of your subscription is a tax-deductible contribution, because we have huge education programs, and that's why we do this. If you wait any longer than the next couple of months, that subscription goes up to $1,750 per person. You still get the tax deduction, but it gets to become more expensive because we have more costs associated with bringing people in last minute and getting the venues to accept different numbers from us.
This is a great way to meet people. And when we came, the people were so friendly. And that it was a social aspect that was so fun. Arthur has clicked on subscription there. And tell us a little bit, Doug, about the educational outreach, if you don't mind.
Well, it's interesting, with our musicians, because they're younger, we take the musicians out. They come in a couple of days before to rehearse. They get to see each other. They get to go through the music. And of course, it's all pieces. For the most part, they played before, but not with each other at this point, unless they work together. So they come in, they do the concert that evening. Then the next day, we take them out to the public schools. Typically, the schools where the young people there, they get their breakfast at school, they get their lunch at school. It's definitely an underserved area school. But in these schools, they have music programs, orchestra programs. So these young people in those schools, many times the instruments are donated, or the symphony orchestras will donate their musicians, and our young people actually go in there. They sit down with them. The kids will play their instruments with a piece the teacher is having them play that have been on the selection from the night before, and they do a master class, and they say, here's what I would do. How did you feel about that? Have you thought about bowing this differently or feeling differently? They'll stand up there, they'll help the young person hold their bow or their instrument, or if they're playing a chamber piece, they actually will go sit down in the orchestra with the kids and play with them. And so we've got lots of incredible photographs of the sheer joy, shock, and surprise and excitement of these young people who are performing with these world-class musicians. From time to time, when we bring a world-class musician like an Itzhak Perlman to town for a special event, several years ago, we surprised the Dreyfus School of the Arts here in West Palm Beach by saying, we're bringing a musician over, make sure you've got time and space for us. And they were expecting, one of our ensemble or one of our world-class chamber musicians. When we brought Itzhak Perlman into the room, you should have seen the looks on their faces and the absolute gasp to see this man come in the room. So, it's a really interesting program because these musicians are younger. It's in their DNA. It's not something we actually have to beg them to do. They actually want to do this. They expect to do it. And they say, when are we going? Where are we going? How much time do we have to spend with the kids before they leave town and go back to New York for the most part?
That's one of the things in the last few years in working with these organizations I think has been so fascinating personally is the educational outreach. The Broward Center, the South Florida Symphony, the Palm Beach Symphony, all of these, the educational components that are part of these organizations that are almost a hidden gem in a way, because yes, it's the concerts and yes, it's the music, but the educational components that people are bringing for adults, for the schools, for the instrumentations. There's an instrumentation donation program. There are so many educational outreaches that are just absolutely fascinating. And it's great to hear you all are doing these amazing educational outreaches programs as well, Doug.
I mean, we do. It's a big part of what we do. It's something that we're committed to because, these schools in the underserved areas are so deprived of so many things that when you can take, a world-class musician who's in their 20s or 30s, which, think about it, if it's high school kids, you kind of see it's closer to their age, who come out there in casual clothes. Whatever that child is enduring in their life, it becomes an inspiration for their aspiration to want to get out of perhaps the situation they're in. And if that lifts one child up in their spirit, up in their hopes, up in their attitude, for us, it's a win-win. And our musicians know that. Many of them come from underserved areas, disadvantaged homes, and they look that they're at the top of their game, the peak of their game, and they're very successful. So we do it. We want to do it. We make sure it happens for each and every concert all year long. And it's in the DNA, Steve. It really is.
The research has shown over and over again that music education, and the arts has such a positive impact on youth and children in so many ways. And when those things get cut, it has a negative impact on children, and so in so many ways. And so we've got to keep the funding for the arts, keep the funding for educational programs, because it will affect the kids, it affects them as adults, and it affects so much of who we are as society. And so I can't champion that enough, that the arts programs are just so important because of the development of these youth and these kids. So Doug, we're very proud to be partnering with you and talking about these programs, getting the outreach out there. And as much as I love the music, the educator in me wants to talk about the educational programs even more so, because I see the value in this and the long range objectives and goals that this accomplishes. So,
well, we're excited to have you folks as a sponsor, people who support us, because quite honestly, we're trying to broaden, deepen, and diversify our audience. And that means everybody. We want everybody to come to our concerts. Hopefully, we know that the ticket price is a little bit high, but when you realize what you're getting for this, if you think about going to the opera and you spend $200 or $300 5 times a year, it's the same amount of money. However, with us, you're getting a tax deduction. You're getting the knowledge that that you're bringing in world-class musicians to an intimate room where you get to see them and talk to them, and you're really helping the community. So we hope that as we get the word out there even more, we'll see the audiences grow in many different ways and expand our program. So thank you for supporting us and believing us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. The last question I have before I wrap, I didn't want to forget, is the venues, because when you talk about ticket price, Arthur, if you'll pull up the venues, and we have you get to experience some really amazing venues. So we say ticket price is high. I don't think it is, because of the music and these places that we get to go to. So I want to make sure mention that, because these places that you are taking them to are really fabulous, Doug.
We have 3 venues that we typically use here in Palm Beach County. The Palm Beach Hotel and Resort, which is the former Ritz-Carlton in Manalapan, Florida. Stephen, you've been there. It's a really gorgeous, gorgeous hotel. We use the Ocean Ballroom for cocktails and hors d'oeuvres, the main ballroom for the concerts. We use the Breakers, of course, for concerts in the grand outside area in the center of the hotel for cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. Then we move into the Gold Room. And then from special concerts, we move to Trinity Episcopal Church in downtown West Palm Beach. The church was built, I believe, in 1928. It's gorgeous on the inside, incredible acoustics, and we have a cocktail hour before it at a building that's adjacent to the church, cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. And, as you know from your musical career, and your history of playing in different venues and especially what we call these wonderful sacred spaces, to do a concert like this in a church like that. Churches were originally built, and music was always a part of them, and not just liturgical music, but musicians coming into the churches. And this church from 1928 is indeed spectacular. There's parking available at all venues. The parking is included, so that's not a surprise for anybody. I mean, there's really no other cost to you except to become a member or subscriber and to come to the concerts, which is what we hope you will do.
Was it the Old Palm Beach? Was that the one I got to come up to?
That's the one you came to. And next year we opened our season at the fabulous Breakers in downtown Palm Beach.
So I will say, I'll leave on this note, if you get to go to the Old Palm Beach, make sure you allot time after the concert to take your date out and sit at the fire pit and get the roasted s'mores.
Well, and
they still do that.
I'm glad you said that, because the concerts typically are over by 8:15 in the evening, start at 7, 8:50. There's time for you to go out to dinner with your date or your loved one or your special person in your life, whether it's there in the same hotel or the fire pit there, of course, is incredible. I've done that also.
But the s'mores are unbelievable.
Oh, it's crazy. And then, of course, there's great restaurants in Palm Beach and also in the hotel. So I'm glad you and your very, very special person had a chance to do that to complete your evening. And we look forward to many more with you.
It was one of the most special treats. We're going to put up the website for everyone to see. cmspb.org is the website for people. And then they can click on that. We're going to put up your social media too as well. This is just an absolute treasure to go out and see these amazing concerts and shows at the concerts at these venues on your Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And as I say, toucans on a string or carrier pigeon these days, however, to get in touch with you all the time.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having me over today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Doug. Is there anything you wanted to cover that I didn't ask?
No, I just want to make sure that I want to thank you for your support. Being a sponsor, Outclick has been great with us. And, it's just a quick ride here. Either, if you're afraid of driving too far up, but most certainly the concerts that are Old Palm Beach are in the south end of the island. And, it's just an incredible experience. And, I first started going as a friend, as a volunteer, almost 10 years ago. I really realized how special of an evening this is, which you've seen also firsthand. So I want to invite everybody to come out, and please get a hold of me, and you'll meet up with me, and I'd love to see that happen.
Sounds good. We look forward to this coming season and all the wonderful performances. Again, we are outclick.com, outclique.com. Or if you'd like to get on our list, you can text OCQ to 22828 to stay updated. Doug, again, it's been a joy. You've been great to work with, and we're excited about this upcoming season. Everyone, thanks so much. Stay safe and have a great evening.